Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, Derek got a fun and exciting video for you guys today because I am playing the recently released Street Fighter Alpha 3 static recompilation for PlayStation 1. I know what you're thinking, there's a ton of different ways to play Street Fighter Alpha 3, a lot of them amazing, and honestly my de facto go-to is the CPS2 version of the game. But the PlayStation 1 version brought in some characters that were never in the arcade before, and honestly with a static recomp it's going to be able to be modded for new features, improvements, and basically getting it in alignment with the actual arcade release of the game. And it's not like we lack ways to play this one, but it's absolutely my favorite Street Fighter game ever made in 2D, so seeing a static recomp come out was definitely something I wanted to check out. But I went into this one leery because honestly the number one thing you need out of any sort of fighting game recomp or decomp base source port is the fact that you need to be able to play it efficiently, and there can be absolutely no latency in the controls and no performance issues. If that was something that was happening, it really wouldn't be worth playing in the first place, because obviously with frame timing and different input windows, if you have any issues in the controls or the overall latency, it's just not going to be a fun time. And I will tell you right off the top, the good news is, outside of the fact that I'm not a very good T-Hawk player, one of the characters added in for PlayStation 1, the control and latency is absolutely fluid and flawless. There's no issues actually sitting down to play this one as the static recomp, so it basically passed the first test for any sort of fast input recomp like a bullet hell shmup or a fighting game like Street Fighter, because again, if that was screwed up, it really wouldn't be worth talking about and you wouldn't be watching this video. Before I get too much further involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But honestly, we're going to be getting a lot more PlayStation 1 recomps in the future, because there's not one but two different recomp tools out right now. PS1 Recomp as well as Recomp 1. So you should definitely expect to see a lot more PlayStation 1 static recomps coming out in the future, which leads me into my first question. If you could snap your fingers and make any PlayStation 1 game show up as a quote-unquote perfect recomp, which one would it be? And I'm going back to Missouri Falls right now. But as far as playing Street Fighter Alpha 3 here is concerned, I went through the footage, I played this game myself as I do 99% of the games on the channel. I kind of looked through everything in Resolve just to see if I could find anything that was out of place would make me think that it wasn't drawing the graphics correctly. And honestly, I could not spot an individual pixel out of the place that it needed to be. Now again, a lot of you guys are eagle-eyed and notice stuff that I don't, but if you see anything that doesn't look correct, give me a time code so I can go back in and actually review it. Because that's one of those things, I only have the one set of eyes. You guys have tens of thousands of eyes combined amongst all of you, so you definitely notice things that every once in a while I will miss. But again, I am impressed with this version of Street Fighter Alpha 3 because it really is doing everything it needs to. It's running at full speed, it obviously has no latency in the controls whatsoever, and once we get to the soundtrack section you'll hear that as well, then we can go over that after that actual break. But honestly, 2D fighting games are a really good test of whether or not a recomp or a source port are working. When we went through 3SX, the Street Fighter 3 Third Strike port, I talked about the fact that if it was having any issues it really wouldn't be a fun time, because sure, maybe a 3D PlayStation 1 recomp could drop a frame here or there and you might not notice because you really are just playing the game, but in a fighting game, the second that anything is not running correctly or at full speed, at least if you played the game enough before, you're absolutely 100% going to be able to tell. And at least in this capture, again, I didn't play every single character in every single stage just to check, I really didn't have any issues being able to enjoy Street Fighter Alpha 3. And considering it is my favorite game in the entire franchise, definitely something that I was looking to try to find an issue with. I don't mean that the fact that I'm trying to find problems just to say, hey, this isn't good. I mean that I try to thoroughly go through all of these different recomps and ports to give you guys exactly the information, at least how I experience it. And for the people that care about it and for the people that don't, you get the exact same information. There is some Johnny 5 or LLM usage within this as well. So if that's something you don't like, now you know. If it's something you don't care about, now you also know. But this static recomp definitely does not deserve the slop moniker, as some people absolutely love to throw around, because that would actually denote that it wasn't functioning properly, wasn't working correctly, and was not worth playing. Whether or not you choose to play, it's up to you, but as far as the actual performance is concerned here, there's nothing to indicate as anything other than a super smooth, very pretty, very performant version of my favorite Street Fighter game ever. Let's go into the first of two soundtrack samples so you can catch the audio quality, and we'll come back, talk more about the port and more about where I'd love to see it go in the future.
Beat 'em up, guys! Go for broke!
Go to front!
mean, it definitely sounds like Street Fighter Alpha 3 to me, but you leave me a comment down below and you tell me what you think. And as far as the discussion of the quote-unquote best version of this game and why it isn't getting a static recomp yet, I feel like most people would say that is the PlayStation Portable version of the game. The reality is that would be an amazing recomp as well, but there really aren't a ton of tools on the PlayStation Portable recomp side of things. We have all of exactly one project in active development, and it is still kind of just getting improvements around the edges. Where on PlayStation 1 we have a lot more tooling, and that's kind of how these static recomps are working in general anyways. You guys ask why we haven't seen any PlayStation 3 recomps, PlayStation 2 recomps, stuff like that. It's just because the overall toolset isn't as robust or doesn't even really quite exist compared to stuff like PlayStation 1 and 64, Xbox 360 and otherwise. And I'm sure that's going to change in the future, but right now that's kind of the story behind it. And this has an entire launcher as well. You'll be able to bring in your legally owned Street Fighter Alpha 3 disk files. You can go ahead and configure your controllers for first player and second player, and it'll tell you if the disk is good, and from there you have some display options as well, including super sampling and some texture filtering, which I would never turn on. And you also have some hotkey menus at the bottom, so you can basically kind of navigate around outside of the launcher. So as far as getting this one set up, if you can pick a file and basically hit the play button, you will be 100% good to go to actually get into Street Fighter Alpha 3 and start enjoying it. And what I'd really love to see for the future, that's basically the same across every single fighting game recomp we have, is I want to see a robust online platform and some mods coming in, because obviously we have extra characters here. Even if the PlayStation Portable version would have more content, but these games are only as fun as the human player you have in the room with you, and because I have no friends in real life that play fighting games, that means nobody, or the online components so you can get a match from other people. And yes, again, I get there's other ways to be able to play Street Fighter Alpha 3 online these days without actually having a human friend in the room with you, but it's still something I would love to see for this. And I don't know if it would be possible. Obviously, only Street Fighter 3, the second entry, has widescreen, but I'd love to see this be able to get extended out into more of a 16:9 format, kind of like we saw a little bit on the PlayStation Portable version of the game. But if you take a look again here at the performance, at the sprites, at the background layer, all of the heads-up display, and even the motion cadence of the actual frames, there really, again, isn't anything I can try to find to say I see any issues, and that's usually pretty rare for a recomp, especially one that is still in active development. There's usually something I can see that says, you know, it's not quite 100% ready yet. And even though the expectation for recomps is the first or even second release is never going to be perfect, think of something like The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess Dusklight, even though that is a source port. It is on version, I think, 1.4.2 right now, and even though it is incredible, there's still bugs that need to be fixed. So never go into a project thinking that the first or even second version is going to be flawless, but at least for me personally, I didn't really find a flaw in this one, but I'm sure it's there. It's just probably in a scenario I didn't play, or I probably missed it in the footage. Let's do one more soundtrack sample, because again, the music in this game, some of the best Capcom ever did, and I'll be right back with more. So if we go down the recomp or source port checklist that I like to keep in the back of my head when I talk about these projects, we're going to find the following. As far as the performance of the game is concerned, the frame rate and the latency definitely checks out. Everything is good here. As far as the visual performance of being a PlayStation 1 recomp without any issues in the sprites, background layers, or anything else, definitely checks out there as well. And the audio quality, also really didn't find anything to comment about that one. And considering this does have a full launcher, so you don't have to worry about building the project or getting files in very specific places, definitely on the ease of use category, which I do think is important, because not everyone wants to get into a heavy build for a recomp. It is passing those checks as well. So honestly, the Street Fighter Alpha 3 static recomp from Technically Computers does everything I need out of a recomp. So if you want to play this one today, the link is in the description below. Go ahead to the GitHub page, hit the Releases tab, and then follow the directions when you actually read the page, and you will be good to go. But short of that, I'm done. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below and tell me the PlayStation game you want to see next. Bye-bye.